everybody. A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you are. I would really like to welcome everybody for today's webinar, and I would like to thank you for your time. And a few things before we can begin. Approximately, we'll be conducting this webinar for less than an hour. In that, our speaker, Mr. Ashwin and Anand Mohan, our OSCP professional, will be taking you throughout the webinar and today's topic and also the live demonstration that we have for you guys. And in the end, 15 minutes after we are done with this session, we'll be holding a Q&A section where if you see on your screen, there's a Q&A box. So if you have any questions pertaining to today's webinar, you can post it in the Q&A section and our speaker will address your questions at that time. Also, simultaneously, we'll be running our polls, and we would really appreciate if you guys can give us your inputs and participate in the polls. So that's it from my side. Welcome all again. And now I would like to hand over to Mr. Ashwin. Mr. Ashwin, you're on mute.
You can see the screen, right? Everybody can see the screen, my screen.
Yes, it's
Okay.
visible.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to this another wonderful session on the exploiting of web and cloud applications based on the Log4j vulnerability. So today in this session, we are going to do a live demo. We are going to exploit a web application which is vulnerable to the Log4j vulnerability, and we will see how easy it is or how difficult it is to exploit this, and a person who can exploit this can take control of the entire machine at the root level itself, right? So in today's agenda, it will be a quick introduction, quick going through some cloud challenges, and then what we do in terms of security testing, and how do we exploit a Log4j vulnerability, and then how can we actually prevent it, and what are the other services that we provide. We're going to quickly see that. So we are a CPA firm based out of Denver, Colorado, with an office in Mumbai, listed with PCOAB, listed with Cloud Security Alliance, and also a certification body under IAS. So quickly, we offer these services: SOC attest reports, ISO IC certifications, US federal assessments, India certain assessments, privacy assessments, vulnerability assessments, and pen tests, cloud security assessments, and other security services. So these are the details of the services that we have just mentioned. Across the SOC reporting, almost all kind of SOC reports what AICP offers, and under ISO IEC we offer all the data security and privacy certifications. Under US Federal, there's the FedRAMP, CMMC, the FISMA, and the NIST. For Indian customers, we do the Aadhaar audits, we do the Safe to Host audits, we do the data localization audits. Also, we do other audits based on the various government directives. In privacy assessments, we cover GDPR, HIPAA, the US state assessments such as the CCP, etc. And in terms of VAPT, we do the application security, we do the networks, we do the cloud security. In terms of cloud security assessments, we do the cloud pen tests, cloud supply chain assessments, container securities, and of course the CSA star and C5 compliance. And in other cybersecurity services, we do the IoT security, we do the SCADA services, we do blockchain, and also we give you VAPT professionals on long-term contract. So if you need a VAPT professional from us on a long-term contract, we can help you with that. So our USP is the SOC 2 and ISO, which we have been doing for the last 10 years. And now we do that under one brand. Few entities, about 10, 12 of them worldwide can do it under one brand. We are one of them. We have served about 5,000 customers so far on cloud security audits. We have 99% repeat clients. About 500 of them are global. And we have about 20 years of experience. In India, we are listed with the Government of India, which is a certain, and we are a certification body under them, audit body rather. So that's my profile. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years. I did my CEH in the year 2006 or 2007 approximately. And since then, I've been not only doing technical assessments, but now migrated more to compliance assessments, SOC 2, ISO, all the frameworks, most of the frameworks that are there in the market. I have almost worked on all of them. So many of you know me, so I will skip this for now and come back to the main agenda for today. So before we dive into the Log4j vulnerabilities, let us just recap the cloud challenges in terms of security, top 11 cloud security challenges. So it all starts with insecure software development, which is one of the major reasons. We have misconfiguration and inadequate change control, which is another major reason for all the data breaches that we see. We have insufficient identity access and key management issues. We have lack of cloud security architecture and strategy. We have unsecured third party resources, such as cloud supply chain I just mentioned is one of the reasons that we do not validate the baselines, we do not validate the AMIs, we do not have a baseline app of the images that we take from open source. That's one of the reasons Log4j is actually vulnerable, right? If we do the baselining, if we do the patch management right, if we do all of the even open source, security well, such issues may not come, or they would be reduced rather. APIs and insecure interfaces is another main reason we have in and out APIs in our application going in and out from our organizations. However, the security in APIs is missing. Many organizations do not even have a formal API risk management process within their organizations. And they have a lot of those third party applications and third party APIs going in and out of the application itself. Accidental data disclosure is another major issue, right? We saw that about 23 million records were leaked out, and for a company called VIP Games. And system vulnerabilities is another major issue, which is by default a mix of various reasons why it actually happens. And misconfiguration and exploitation of container workloads is another major challenge these days. We see that many of the Docker images, many of the Kubernetes images, the baseline images themselves are vulnerable. They have vulnerabilities within themselves. So if you do not have a proper, I would say, security process when we look at Docker images or Kubernetes or any other open source systems that we implement in our organization, our our systems will be vulnerable. Cloud data exfiltration is another major issue. We saw Facebook um, breach that leaked out 533 million accounts recently, rather last year. Um, Cybercrime is increasing. $10 trillion is poised to be the economy for the cybercrime and itself, which is almost to equivalent to large economy in the world, second or third largest. And of course, data breach is a major after effect of all of these security vulnerabilities in the cloud. The attackers only want to take your data, and they would like to uh, do a ransomware attack and try to get hold of money, and they will try to get in terms of bitcoins, etc. So that's a major challenge that we face today, right, in terms of data breaches and possible data breaches or possible ransomware attacks. That is what we need to save today, and that is the whole objective of this webinar that we are doing. We need to save the data breaches. We need to help you organizations to comply with the regulations and save the costly data breaches or the costly ransomwares. So now the four major pointers of data breach. Data breach is a nightmare for every organization or any organization. It company can face loss of revenue for or loss of customer trust. It has a tangible impact in terms of legal fees and of course the fines and penalties. And the prevention to data breach is one of the prevention is the BAPT. So if you periodically do vulnerability assessments, pen test in your environment, perhaps you can prevent data breaches by knowing what are the vulnerable areas. You can do configuration reviews, you can do the entire architecture reviews, and not only configuration reviews, the entire infrastructure of yours can be looked at from a security best practices. And the VAPT can be done at your network layer, at your application layer and across the various other layers. Now, coming to security testing and for web and cloud applications, right? This is how we do. At SEDIA, we do cloud-based security application testing, and we follow a defined methodology based on the best practices in the market, right? We test those applications or the networks in the cloud environments or any other environments, and these are done by certified security professionals such as OSCP, CH, and others. Today we have on the call, today's webinar, Mr. Anand, who is a OSCP professional, and he is associated with us, and he will give you the live session of how a Log4j attack can be done in this session. So the benefits of doing VAPT periodically is that you can identify vulnerabilities in time. It gives you a clear picture about your organization's status of your security in terms of network, in terms of application on the web and on the cloud. You can do API testing. You can do your access testing. You with a VAPT, perhaps you can know who has access to what, and maybe you can restrict the access to those areas to on a need-only basis. It provides recommendations, and you can resolve issues ASAP. We use a CVSS framework version 3.10 to in our reports to describe the vulnerabilities, and that entails with these five aspects. One is the first is the info, which has got CVSS score of 0. Then it's a low, which is 0.01 to 3.9. Fourth is the medium, 4.0 to 6.9. Fifth is the fourth is the high, 7 to 8.9, and fifth is the critical, 9 to 10. That's how we categorize this and put it in our report. Now, coming to the Log4j vulnerability and how to exploit it. So, what is Log4j? Log4j shell is a severe critical vulnerability affecting many versions of Apache Log4j application. The vulnerability allows unauthenticated remote code execution. Attackers can take advantage of it by modifying their browser's URL with a string as stated in this image, in this PPT. The vulnerability can be found in products of some of the most famous technologies and vendors: AWS, Microsoft, Google, IBM, Cloudflare, Cisco, and so on. Right? Log4j is an open source Java library in Apache. Most of the web servers use Apache, and that is why it is very popular. Publicly facing client server applications are using them. It's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. The exploit requires no prerequisites and can be exploited with a single request that we will see today. Log4j has inbuilt features which cause logging module to reach out externally, pulls additional data into the machine, and grants the attacker full control. That is the that is the most important aspect of this demonstration today and this presentation today. A recent research early this year on Log4j, we had 421 unique hosts attempting to exploit Log4j vulnerability on the cloud. There were almost 10,000 confirmed attack attempts. 70 different variants of malware were present, and there were 200 plus unique attack variants for Log4j. SolarWinds is sort of the most important case study that we all know, right? There was a data breach which was undetected for almost 9 months, with 18,000 computers being exposed worldwide due to the Log4j vulnerability, and more than 1,000 private companies were impacted. 44% of the IT companies, including Microsoft, Intel, Cisco, and the US government Department of Homeland, were also impacted by this vulnerability. On December 9th, 2021, it was made public via the project's GitHub website, right? About the Apache's log2 versions 2.0 to 2.14.1, right? which were vulnerable to Log4j. NIST provided a rating of 10 on this. CVSS score was 10, being a critical, the top that any vulnerability can actually have, right? It was regarded a top vulnerable, right? With the CVE version 2 2021 to 44228, right? It was the highest severity rated at that point of time. So if the devices are running certain versions of Log4j 2.0 to 2.17.1, attackers can exploit the vulnerability using a malicious code to control the computer remotely. Once the attacker performs remote code execution, it allows them to access the entire network through the affected device or the application, run any code, access all the data on the affected device or application, delete or encrypt files. You can also run a ransomware attack, take all of the data, put it on the dark web, sell it out, do whatever they want to do. Right? So before we actually see the live, let's look at what an attacker actually does, right? To get a control of the machine. So the step one is once attacker finds a server with a vulnerable version of Log4j, which is 2.14.1 in our example today, the attacker will send a GET request to the victim server with attacker's LDAP and server link. The victim server will just connect to the attacker's LDAP server without verifying it, and then the attacker will send an LDAP response to the victim server with malicious payload. Since the Log4j library is vulnerable to receive the payload and execute without verification, the attacker can make use of this vulnerability to compromise the victim server. That's how we will be doing it today. So in the live demo, which we will follow in the next few minutes, we will see that first we will we have created actually an application which is vulnerable to version 2.14.1, and then we have set up a LDAP server, right? And that is with a crafted payload, which we will send it, and we'll listen to a port 9001, and then we will inject the payload, and then we will take the control of the whole system, right? And before we go on the live, I have a few more pointers which I would like to inform you. Okay, so while I'll explain the whole process first, and then we will do the live demo, and Anand will also go through the entire steps in detail with you. First step is to have a vulnerable application, right? So we created a vulnerable web application and hosted it on the internet to demonstrate this Log4j vulnerability. The web application is using the Java library Log4j version 2.14.1, right? So we all know that the library versions 2.0 to 2.17.1 are vulnerable. So we took this vulnerable application to try and see if we can exploit this. So today when we run through the steps, we will see how easy it is to inject a payload and to attack the web application and to take control of it, right? So what we're going to do is from our IP address, we have configured a web server port 8000, and then we have set up the port 9001 to listen to as a port listener at all, port listener. And then we will start the exploit LDAP server on port 1389, right? And then on port 8000, we will wait for the transfer process to happen. And then once it is done, right, we will get a payload and we will use this exploit. So once we get to hear back from the 9001 port, we will inject the payload. And once the payload is injected, we will take the full control of the application. So over to you, Anand, now. Anand, can you share your screen and give the live demo? Yeah. Also, can you also explain the steps? What are you doing, Anand?
So already, sir. Thank you, sir. Sunil sir already told you, sir. This is a whenever web applications self-hosted on internet for demonstrate for the log4j vulnerability. This web applications using a Venable Java library log4j 2.14.1 as the log4j library 2.0 to 2.17.1 are available. Suppose if a hacker want to attack on web applications, then how to easy to for him to do. So let's see hacker approach to hack these web applications. So this my applications log4j vulnerability. So in my applications log4j versions is because I'm using for versions API 2.14.1. So let's start. First, here I am going to for a user publicly available exploiting for easy to understanding purpose. With the exploiting, we can automate all attacking process. So here now, I will mention first. I will check my IP address. This my IP address is 192.168.1.10. So in this exploiting, I will mention my IP address and web server port 8000. Then will be port 9001 for getting a reverse sales connection to the available web applications. So this my IP address is this is my local IP address and my web port 8000 and my local port is 9001 for the reverse sale purpose. So just I will started local port. As I mentioned, I will 9000 port during for the exploiting purpose. So we will need a start a listener for the attacking machines in 2021. So if you are attacking successfully, just give me 1 minute. Just I will start it. So after first will be I will copy for the link ldf link. So just I will copy and go through this and any input field like for the after attacking setup done, we are now ready to attack for vulnerable web applications. At this point we will need to put our recently crafted link in every input for web page. So just give the login. In the login in log4j library there is a genadi api web work in the to check every logs. If our attack gone successfully, then we catch a reverse sales connections for vulnerable web applications. So just here now I will give the ID. Already I will access for the web applications. I'm already getting for the root ID root access in a vulnerable web applications log4j. So now I'm getting a reversal connections for vulnerable web applications on port non 9001. In this scenario, we will got a root cell. So we have a full privilege on the vulnerable web applications here now. Just I will give the host name for the demo purpose for the log4j vulnerability because I am using for the log4j applications in API 2.14.1. Already I already told you in the log4j vulnerability 2.0 to 2.17.1, but right now I am using for the 2.14.1 for the demonstrate purpose. my applications. This my Log4j applications is working on the versions of 2.14.1. So that's why I'll be access in my root access in these applications. Root access. This is the most of the vulnerability. Log4j has also have a critical vulnerability for the top of 10 because this is a directly I will access for the root server. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Anand. I will now continue with my. Can you please unshare? Anand, can you? So I'll continue with the presentation. So where is my slide gone? Yeah. So we were on the live demo. So just to recap, what Anand has shown you is what we did again. We created a application which is vulnerable to Log4j 2.14.1, right? We set up the LDAP server, right? We crafted a payload. We started a listener port on port 9001. We injected a payload in the web application here, and we got the root access of the target machine. So we could get a root access, and we are now we are admin in the root access, and we can do whatever we need. So that's the gist of today's live demonstration today. So now it's you've seen that with this vulnerability, a person can get admin access, can get root access. So it's important that we have mitigation measures to prevent from this vulnerability. What are the mitigation measures we can take? We can disable some of the softwares or some of the libraries that would impact this, right? It could have downtime, it could have some performance issues, but you have to take a look at it, and you can find some mitigation measures, or disable those, or to see if they can put in a behind a firewall or whatever. You can try to restrict access to those things in whatever possible way. Then disable JNDI lookups, or disable remote databases, code bases rather. Okay, and then alternatively, you can also configure a WAF until you have patches to it, right? And of course, VAPT testing is most important. Every time you keep checking your environment, every large organizations do it continuously. Every every day they have their internal VAPT teams doing continuous assessments and continuous so and so. Of course, patching is the best methodology. We need to patch whatever patches are available. The first and foremost thing is to patch. The day it comes, you have to patch. Until we get some patches, we try to isolate them, try to disable them, try to put access controls, try to put WAFs, try to put whatever mitigation measures you can do to make sure the performance is not impacted. However, you are still safe, right? But it's important to do your security testing periodically, and that's the point I'm trying to make. So how we can help? We do provide VAPT pen test services for the application, for the network, for the cloud. Right? We can do that in house. We have a full-fledged team with OSCP professionals, CH professionals, and we do this to all of our customers. We have been doing that for several years. Now we are enhancing these services. We have expanded our team, and now we are trying to expand more onto the cloud applications because we find so many cloud vulnerabilities every day. We also offer VAPT training courses such as OSCP certification, cloud pen tester services or other courses, and the red team courses. So these are the three courses that we offer in terms of the technical assessments. And not only that, we can also provide you a long-term resource which is OSCP certified or CH certified on a contract basis, on a long-term basis. So these are some of the services that we provide. And I think we can get to next on the our disclaimer, and then if you have any questions, we will take on the questions. So the disclaimer is, what we want to state is that this was only for demonstration purposes. Your applications, your environment may or may not be vulnerable to such vulnerabilities of Log4j, but it's important for you to periodically do a VPT of your environment to know the status of your environment and to check where you stand against it, right? And then if you have any questions now, we can take this. And after this, Alva can run through the polls, and then we can take the question answers. If you can put it on the Q&A box, that will be great.
Hello. So thank you for the wonderful presentation to both our speakers. Um, I have already started the polls, and it would be really great, and we would really appreciate if you guys can participate in the polls and give us your feedback. Also, as Mr. Ashwin mentioned, that our Q&A box is right there. So if you have any question pertaining to today's webinar, please post it there, and our speakers will be addressing your questions. So we'll be waiting for you guys to post your questions. And also, yeah, please participate in the polls.
So if there are no questions, we you can always send us your questions by email. We'll be more than happy to help you. And we'll wait for another 2 minutes. If there are no questions, then we can give you back some time. So since there are no questions, I think we can close the call.
Okay. So, thank you a lot, everybody, for joining our today's webinar. If you're interested in our VAPT audit services or our training courses, as you saw in the slides, we offer VAPT related training courses like OSAP, Red Team training, and Cloud Pentester training. So, if you're interested in any of our services, you can always send us an email and we'll reach out back to you. And also, please stay tuned with our LinkedIn page because we keep posting about our upcoming webinars. So stay tuned and hope to see you on our next webinar. Thank you. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Bye.